Hello, my name is Robin Smelinich, and welcome to your online orientation for your volunteer trip with the Child's Hope Foundation. In this orientation, you will first view a PowerPoint presentation, which will give you some information about the specific orphanage that you're going to. Also, in just a moment, Lexi Skousen will introduce herself as your volunteer trip coordinator, and Erin Knutson will also talk about registration, signing your waiver forms, and payments, and also a few tips on social media. In the end, Samantha Smith and I will talk about this information sheet, and this gives you some specific information with regards to your trip. Hopefully a lot of your questions will be answered in our presentation, but if not, feel free to contact either Lexi Skousen or your trip host with questions that you might have. We hope you enjoy your online presentation, and thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Lexi Skousen. I'm the volunteer coordinator for the Child's Hope Foundation, and my job is to make sure all the volunteers are ready for their trip. You should have received 2 emails from me at this point covering your trip payments and the due date for that, and the orientation, that you're participating in right now. Along with those emails, I've included a couple of documents with your itinerary, so your plans for the week of your trip, the information sheet that has the specifics about the location you'll be visiting, the packing list that'll help you prepare for your trip, and then a link to the Google Pins that has all the locations that you'll be going to while you're down in Mexico. Along with this orientation, if you would like to speak with your trip host and figure out the details for your specific trip, let me know and I can set up a conference call for you to meet with them. If you have any other questions, let me know through email or over the phone. I'm happy to help answer any other questions you might have, and we hope you enjoy your trip.
Hi, my name is Erin Knutson, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Finance here at a Child's Hope Foundation. In a second, we're going to switch over to a video where I'll walk through the process for payments and refunds, talk about our waivers, and also the social media that you guys can use while you're on your trip. So we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Hey everyone, I'm going to teach you how to make a trip payment on our website, and then along the way I'll talk about our payment and refund policies. So first go to our website, achildshopfoundation.org. On our menu bar, we have Give, and then you go to Make a Trip Payment. On this page, you'll enter the amount you owe and a description about which trip you'll be attending. Full trip payments are due 3 months before the first day of the trip. If you're registering before the full payment due date, a $100 non-refundable deposit is due at the time of registration. If you're registering after the full payment due date, the full trip payment is due upon registration. There's also a $75 late fee assessed for those who register within 2 weeks of the first day of the trip. So if it was about 6 months out and you were just paying your trip deposit, you'd come over here and you'd put in the details. So for this example, I put in trip deposit for Guaymas, December 2018, Christmas. Then you have 2 payment options. You can pay with PayPal or with a debit or credit card. So with PayPal, you would fill in your personal information and then you'd select Next. It'll take you to the PayPal page for you to confirm your payment with your PayPal email address. If you want to pay with a debit or credit card, you'd come over here and select credit card. You'd fill in your same personal information and select Next. A box will pop up for you to put in your billing information. When you go to the next part of that box, then you'd be able to fill in your credit card number and then submit your payment. With either option, you'll receive an email with a confirmation. We understand that sometimes life happens and you may need to cancel your registration. Unfortunately, the $100 trip deposit is non-refundable, but the rest of the trip payment can be refunded or applied to a future trip. We do offer a one-time trip deposit transfer for volunteers who choose their new trip within 14 days of notifying our team of their cancellation. In this case, the full trip payment, including the $100 deposit, can be transferred to the new trip selected. So pretty much what this means is that if you want to transfer to a different trip, if you know you have to cancel, then you can let us know which trip you want to go on and we can transfer that trip deposit. It can only be transferred one time, so you wouldn't be able to then transfer that same deposit to another trip after that. Once a trip is only 2 weeks out, all trip payments become non-refundable and non-transferable for that trip. If you ever have any questions about your trip payments, please call or email me and we can discuss in more detail. My information is in the email that Lexi sent out with this orientation. Next, we're going to talk about the trip guidebook and the permission waiver. If you haven't filled these out yet, I'll show you how to access these documents and point out an important note about posting pictures on social media while on your trip. From the homepage, click Volunteer. Scroll down to our trip list. Find the trip you registered for. I'll show you this first one as an example. Each trip page gives a list of the steps for registration. The first step is to fill out the trip registration form. If you're watching orientation, you've already done this. But please note that this form must be filled out for each member of your group or family. The second step is to read the volunteer trip guidebook. The trip guidebook gives more information about your trip and specifics about the location you'll be visiting. Once you've read it as a group, please review and sign the permission, medical release, and guidebook review form. This link will take you to a smart waiver. Please review this waiver in detail. There's one thing I want to point out at the end. Right here it says, I understand that if I post pictures on social media, I may not include children's names, my location, or mention the name of the orphanage. This is a precautionary measure we take to ensure the safety of the children we serve. We absolutely 100% want you to post on social media about your trip. We just ask that you please follow the guidelines in this review form. While serving at our Baja orphanages, you can tag Baja as your location. Just please do not tag the individual cities where the orphanages are located. We hope you will also include the hashtags A Child's Hope Foundation and ACHF Volunteer. These hashtags help spread the word about our important cause and let others know about the awesome opportunity to come down to Mexico with us to play with the kids. The last step for registration is to submit payment. We've already talked about this, but I wanted to point out that this is one other place that you can link to that same trip payments page. If you have any other questions about your permission forms or about the trip guidebook, please contact Lexi. Thanks again for watching.
Hello, and welcome to the online orientation for your volunteer trip down to El Palme, Mexico, to the Rancho de Niños Orphanage. My name is Robin Smelanich, and I'm the Director of Operations for A Child's Hope Foundation. I hope this PowerPoint presentation will give you a glimpse into the orphanage you'll be going to, its surroundings, and a little bit about the typical day. So let's get started. First of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about how A Child's Hope Foundation got started. It started with a couple, Paul and Caroline Cook. And they adopted this little baby Megan that Caroline's holding from China. And so an acquaintance of Paul's came up to him a couple years later and said, you know, I know adoption is important to you, giving children that may not have a good life, something to look forward to. And there are a lot of orphans in Haiti whose situation is just dire. So Paul went down to Haiti and he met with a man, a Christian man, who had a one-room house and had like 40 or 50 orphans in it. And he thought, you know what, I can't just send him money and hope that that situation will improve. I really need to do something to help him. And so this is what he said. I'll pause here so you can just take a few minutes to read what Paul was saying. So this next slide just shows you a little bit about what these buildings were like. I mean, they were nothing but rubble. And then this other picture shows how, yes, the volunteers have started to go down and improve their situation, their living conditions. And within several years, this beautiful orphanage is what they built, is what A Child's Hope Foundation built. And the amazing thing about this, the same lady that was there when this orphanage started, I don't know, 15 years ago, is still there today. And over 1,200 kids have been adopted from this orphanage to various homes throughout the world. And so it's been very successful. However, about mid-2000s, about 2005, 2006, the situation in Haiti got so it wasn't safe to send volunteers to Haiti. It was a huge liability. And so Paul did not want the vision of A Child's Hope to die. So he's like, well, let's just let's help another country. So that's when they started going to Mexico, and we've been going there ever since. The first couple of years, they had probably 5 or 6 trips down to Mexico, and now, starting in 2016, we now do about 30 trips. So the organization has really expanded, and the volunteer base is amazing. So this will show you the gate of this darling orphanage that you're going to go to down in Empalme, which is just a little bit south of Guaymas, Mexico, if you want to look it up on a map. It's a Catholic orphanage. It's run by the Catholic Church. However, the Catholic Church does not give them any financial support. Neither does the Mexican government. Even though these orphanages are technically run by and have regulations, they do not get any financial support from the government. So that's why the volunteers that go down are extremely important to keeping these orphanages running. Here's a picture of the cute sisters that you will meet. They do not speak English. They each have a role. One takes care of cooking, one takes care of all the administration, one takes care of laundry. But they are the sweetest ladies that you are just going to grow to love. So let's show you a little bit about the accommodations that you'll have there. This is a picture of the orphanage, just the outside. Underneath those archways is the dorms where the kids stay in. Some of you, depending on how large the group is, may be staying in the rooms with the orphans, and then they just double bunk. If that is the case, we ask that you just leave their things alone, be respectful of their items and their home. Some of you will be staying in what they call the bishop's quarters, and so if the bishop ever comes, this is where he stays. I don't know how often that is, but it's just a separate area of the orphanage, as you can see, that has bedrooms. Even though there's bedding, we recommend that you bring your own bedding, sheets, blankets. Maybe you can see here there's a sleeping bag to just throw on top of it. Just whatever it's going to be. In the wintertime, it gets a little chilly at nights, so you might want to, bring an extra hoodie or something to sleep with, but just bring your own bedding to put on these beds. This is a picture of the dorm rooms where the kids sleep, so some of you may be sleeping in here too. But like I said, instead of using their bedding, let's just bring our own and use ours. So you will be eating several of your meals here at the orphanage. Definitely you'll be eating breakfast and then several lunches. And this just gives you a picture of the kitchen. They will go do the shopping. They have a cook that does the cooking, but since we add probably almost double to what they normally cook for, they do, if you want to go in and help cook, they would appreciate it. This is their dining hall where we eat with the kids, and it's a lot of fun. This just shows you again volunteers waiting in line to get their meal. They do have bathrooms and they do have showers. However, there isn't a lot of hot water, so we recommend if you do take a shower, make them quick. And probably you don't need to take one every day, but just make sure that they're quick and efficient showers. Also, with regards to the restrooms, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the next portion of this online orientation, but you can't flush anything down the toilet. So just make sure you're all aware that there's always a waste paper basket for your toilet paper and so forth. This is the back gate going into the orphanage. This orphanage is kind of out on its own. It's actually just over the horizon is the ocean, about 5 minutes away. But they do lock up and they do have a security guard. So you don't need to worry about your valuables being stolen or lost. And again, this just shows you the picture of Christ and then also the bishop's quarters where a lot of you will be staying. So construction projects. The volunteer trips to the various orphanages in Mexico, we have 2 parts. First part is construction and helping improving their living conditions. The second part is activities and playing and showing love to the children. We try and do the construction part in the mornings before it gets too hot. So let me just show you some of the construction projects. There's always painting to be done. So you might want to bring those latex gloves, for painting projects. They love color. They love their orphanage being changed colors frequently. So there always seems to be painting. Here they are painting on top of the roof, painting it white and blue. Also, someone came down there, a volunteer came down and made these cute little picnic tables. And so here are some volunteers shellacking those picnic tables. There is a room that they were trying to make into some showers and bathrooms for volunteers. And so that's what this room is that they're doing. They're digging out cement for the plumbing for the bathroom. Here they are digging the trenches to get the water lines in and to connect it up with the septic system. Here you are with boards. There is a Home Depot that's fairly close to this orphanage. So if you do have a project that you think might be fun, like they were building these picnic tables, you can get supplies down there. You don't need to bring them all the way from the U.S. Again, just more cement work and more painting, more digging, more pipe laying, again, more trenches. You might also be laying tile. I know a couple groups the end of last year were redoing the roofs and making them waterproof, putting tar or whatever it is they put on the roof to seal them. So the construction projects can vary from trip to trip, and we will not know what those projects are until a couple weeks before. It depends on what the last group got done and what the needs are for the orphanage. And you might have some projects planned and you get down there and you find that their septic system is backed up. And so that's what most people are working on, is fixing that. So you need to be flexible when you go to Mexico because you never know what it's going to bring. But like I said, the second part of it, construction is nice, but really we just want to show love and concern and care for these children. So in the afternoons is when we take them on outings and we do activities with them. Here just shows you a couple of the darling kids that are down there. This is a little girl in her uniform to go to school. All of the kids in Mexico have to have uniforms to go to school. If they do not have uniforms, they can't go to school. So that's another big fundraiser we always do in the fall, is to try and collect money to help all of the orphanages that we service get money for uniforms. They do have a play area, swing sets. Here I am just playing with the little kids. I mean, honestly, you can bring card games down like Old Maid or Uno or Go Fish. You know, you can play those with the kids. You can bring coloring books and crayons, puzzles, bubbles. They love bubbles. Face painting, sidewalk chalk. For the older kids, you know, you might want to go onto Amazon and look up some youth or young adult books in Spanish and take those down. They love anything that your kids love to do, whether they're young kids or teenagers. These kids in Mexico love to do. So this is the fun part, is just playing with the kids, connecting with them. Once in a while, this orphanage does get babies, and so you'll get a chance to maybe take care of some babies. And if they do have babies, then diapers and formula and so forth are things that they do need. Here are more volunteers just working on projects. Here they are painting, doing arts and crafts, and just giving hugs. This is the field behind the orphanage, and just over that ridge is the ocean. You won't be going that way because it's fenced off, but the ocean is about 5 minutes away, and I can guarantee you'll be taking the kids down there. They love it. Tons of seashells at the beach right there by this orphanage. They're fun to collect. And you might even take the kids to a better beach that's a little bit more sandy. And then the last night that we're there, down in El Palme, we always have a party. We always have a piñata with lots of candy, a big fun taco dinner. So it's just a good way to end the volunteer trip and to give hugs and say goodbye to the kids and to the sisters. In the afternoons, like I said, you will be going on some outings as well. And so let me just show you some of these. Guaymas is a bigger city right close to Empalme where you'll be staying. And so you'll go in there. I'm sure you'll have dinner in there one night or lunch. It's a beautiful city with lots of things to sightsee and look around and shopping. So you'll go into Guaymas. This is a really nice beach that we took the kids to one time, and they loved it. So you will be taking the kids to the beach or just going as a volunteer group. You will also have the opportunity to either go deep sea fishing or snorkeling. So you will get out on a boat, go out on the beautiful water, and enjoy that. I know groups have seen schools and schools of dolphins that are fun. The deep sea fishing, you won't be catching huge fish like you envision, but it's fun to go out on the boat and catch fish anyway. Here they are fishing. You might go into Guaymas and have a great food trucks. They have food trucks like we have here, where you can get carne asada and so forth. So that's just some pictures here. More pictures of the kids playing on the beach. Again, more pictures. It's kind of like a vacation down here. It really is. It's a beautiful part of Mexico. You're really going to like it. Here's some shopping in Guaymas that we did to get your souvenirs. Here's a beautiful church. And then there's a group picture at the end. You are going to love your trip down to El Palme, Mexico. You're going to love the drive down. It's a lot of fun to see the countryside and to experience different food and culture. And I hope this just gives you an idea of what your trip will be like. Lexi Skousen is our volunteer trip coordinator, and there's her email address. You can email her with any questions. This probably sparked a lot of other questions that you might have. If you're interested in what can I take down, what would be helpful, she will be the one to contact, because things change, depending on the time of year or the children that they have. If they have a lot of infants, then they're going to need more diapers and formula and that sort of thing. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and hope you have a great trip.
Hi, my name is Samantha Smith, and I'm Director of Training. I'm here with Robin to talk a little bit about your guidebook so that you're more prepared for your trip in Mexico.
And hopefully you've printed this off or you've pulled it up so you can follow along with us or take notes. And maybe any questions you might have, jot those down. So the first thing I just want to mention is about clothing and packing. When you go on these trips with the Child's Hope Foundation, we recommend that you pack light. And that the second thing is you pack just layers. In Mexico, it gets very warm during the day, but it cools off at night and in the morning. And so if you wear like a short sleeve shirt during the day, you might want a hoodie or a jacket or even a beanie if you're going on one of the holiday trips for the evening. Also in construction, every morning we're going to be working around the orphanage, painting or doing cement work, working in the yard, digging ditches. So your clothes are going to get dirty. They're going to get paint on them. They're going to get cement on them. So honestly, you can wear the same outfit every single day during the morning. And then in the afternoon, you can change to whatever's appropriate for your activity then.
So a few things that are really important to remember in Mexico is flexibility is key. However, there are a few policies that we have for trips for ACHF and that the orphanages have that we want to make you aware of. They'll go over these with you again, but we ask that you read through them as a group of friends or as a family before you go down, and then you'll be reminded throughout. Something that's really important is that the plumbing in Mexico is very different than plumbing in the US. So because of that, we do not flush toilet paper down there. Not only is it going to clog that toilet, but it could potentially clog their whole system, which would cause a huge problem for the orphanage. So if you forget, we have sticks next to each of the toilets to be able to fish out your toilet paper. Also next to each of the toilets is a trash can where you'll place your toilet paper. It's very, very important that if you forget that you do fish it out and stick it in the trash can. Also important is that you place the stick back the way you got it. So you grab from the top, you fish from the bottom, and then you put it in the trash can and you put it back exactly the same way. So if the next person forgets it, they'll be able to fish it out, not using the end that already went in the toilet. Also, another key thing is you will be staying in the rooms right next to the kids. And so we're going to be in and out of areas that they are familiar with being in. So we ask that you don't invite any of the orphans into our rooms where we're staying, and that you don't go into any of their rooms. So there's a large courtyard that we'll be able to play with the kids, and that is the place you can go, as well as a kitchen area to be able to play with the kids.
One thing about that though, at this particular orphanage, some of you may be staying in the kids' rooms. And so obviously if that's the case, you need to go in there. But we just want to kind of keep it separate so the kids don't feel really familiar with going in and seeing what stuff you have. vice versa.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're not familiar with playing with little kids, they are super squirmy. So please be very careful when you're playing with them that you're not picking them up over concrete, because they very easily can squirm out of our arms and get hurt. Additionally, there are laundry services at the orphanage, but they're not for our use. They use them almost day and night to be able to take care of their kids' clothes. So please don't bring anything that you're going to want to wash in a sink or in the shower, but make sure that you have enough clothing, even though you're packing light, to make it through the week and not have to do laundry while you're there. Another key thing to keep in mind while in Mexico is drinking water. You are going to want to use drinking water, your bottled water, for even brushing your teeth, to avoid any possibility of getting sick. So that's really important. There will be water that you can refill in the kitchen that's purified. You also might want to consider bringing a case of water for your family or jugs of water to refill, because you'll be going through a lot of water, and we always want to make sure that we're drinking bottled water while we're down in Mexico. You will have a trip host and a construction supervisor, and your trip host role is to be your guide and translator and help keep you on task, and they'll be there to keep you aware of what activities you're going to be doing next, and move along to make sure that we're able to interact with the kids and have fun playtime, as well as getting onto construction or different activities. And so they'll be there to help support you through any questions that you have, as well as a construction supervisor. So if you're not very familiar with doing construction work, that is okay, because there will be a construction supervisor who will be able to coach you through the different projects you guys will be working on. Often one of the questions people have a few months out when you're watching this is, what is the activity? What is the construction project? Well, because this is their home, this is where they live, they're not going to wait for a project necessarily for us to come down, and vice versa. So it won't be till about 2 weeks out that we'll have secured what the projects will be for your group. You will always need water, you will always need gloves, and you will always need sunscreen. So those are key things to bring, but look for that email from Lexi about 2 weeks out. They'll give you an update on what the specific construction project is, the immediate need for that particular orphanage, as well as an updated itinerary for your trip.
So a typical day down there is we wake up at like 6:37. You actually go in and eat breakfast with the children. If you're early, if you're there during school year, they head out for the bus fairly early. But you'll eat breakfast there at the orphanage, and then the mornings are spent doing construction. When it's a little bit cooler, we try and do the construction projects in the morning. And then you'll have lunch, either there at the orphanage, or your trip host may take you to another town or to a taco shop to have lunch. The afternoons are spent doing fun activities, and I've just kind of listed in this sheet some of the fun activities that you'll be doing. Going down to Guaymas or El Palme is so much fun. It's like a great vacation. There's so many fun things to do. The beach, actually, from the kids' orphanage is like a 5-minute walk. So you might go down and take the kids to the beach. You might go over to San Carlos and take the kids to the beach. You might go to Guaymas and go out to dinner, do souvenir shopping. We always have one afternoon set aside for either deep sea fishing or snorkeling, and it is so much fun. And it's so inexpensive there in Mexico. So just plan on having those fun activities. Also, you're going to have a lot of time to spend with the orphans in the afternoon. And they like to just do fun things. They like to play tag, they like to color, they like to play games, they like to play card games. They have a playground where you can go out and swing with them and so forth. So even though construction is kind of half of the day, it really isn't the most important part. The most important part is connecting with the children, showing them love and care. So here it just kind of gives you some ideas of things you can bring down to the kids if you would like to.
And get creative. Look through this activity and then talk with your family or your group of friends and think of something that you guys love to do and how you might share that. One thing I know people have loved doing is minute to win it games, or if you guys are big storytellers or love to read, find some children's books in Spanish to be able to go down there, and they might, if you can't speak Spanish, a lot of the older kids would be able to read that book to you. And so think outside of the box of some different activities that might be something different or special that your family does that you could bring and enjoy with them.
Do you want to talk a little bit about where we meet?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be meeting in Nogales at a Safeway in the morning. So it's really important that you're flying in, that you're going to get in the night before. Nogales is a couple hours south of Phoenix, and we meet in the parking lot of a Safeway. So if you need any last minute snacks, feel free to run into that Safeway before the meeting time to be able to meet on time and get down there.
Is that usually about 9 or 10?
It's 9.
9 o'clock.
And all of this will be in your itinerary. And you'll also have communication with your trip host. In Guaymas, they do not use US dollars. So you'll need to also make sure that you've exchanged money before that meeting time. And you'll have more information in the email from Lexi on some places that are easy to go do that exchange of money.
Or if you want to make it simpler, do it several weeks before your trip. Wherever you live, just go to your local bank and get pesos. That'll make it a lot easier. Those of you who are driving your own car, you will need to get Mexico insurance. You can check with your current carrier to see if they would supply, but you will be going about 6 or 7 hours south of the border. So more than likely, you're going to need to get Mexico insurance. And we have a link here in this packet called Baja Bound. We have a link to Baja Bound. It's very inexpensive, and we have found that this is the best place to get your Mexican insurance. So please do that before your trip.
For food, meals from Monday night through Friday night will be covered. You won't have to worry about that. But during the day on Monday and then on Saturday, you will need to cover your own meals. So your trip host will be there to help you point out some places that you might go. And there isn't really an area for us. A lot of our meals we eat at the orphanage or out at taco stands. So if you want snacks or different things throughout the day, then make sure to bring those things with your family in the car. There is some fridge space, but not a ton. So if you have insulin or something, absolutely that can go in the fridge. But we ask that you bring your own coolers and ice or something like that if you need something that needs to be chilled, or go to different small stores throughout the day if you need to get something extra snacky for your family.
One thing, I don't know if we mentioned the drinking water. I think we did when we went over policies. But again, make sure that you use bottled water for brushing your teeth as well as drinking.
So you might consider bringing an extra case or two, depending on the size of your family, or some jugs of water to refill your water bottles.
It's recommended, or it's not recommended, it is that you need to have at least one working cell phone in your car. So make sure to check with your carrier to see what kind of service that you're going to need. Tell them you're going to be going to Mexico. And when you do cross the border, you need to make sure that you turn on your data roaming. And this will allow you to get the pins downloaded of where you're going to be going. Your trip host will be able to send texts and say, hey, we're all meeting here for lunch on the way down. It is about a 6-hour drive from the border, and so you usually stop at a taco shop for lunch. So make sure that you have a working cell phone and that you have those Google Map pins downloaded. Items to bring to the orphans. People always want to bring something fun, and it makes you feel good to bring fun things down that maybe they don't have in Mexico. They like anything you like. So if you want to bring crayons and coloring books or bubbles or Uno cards, anything like that is fun for the kids to have. They really don't need clothing, and their food is provided. What the sisters would love, though, at this orphanage is monetary donations, honestly, because then they can use that money for whatever their needs happen to be. If it happens to be cleaning supplies or getting uniforms for kids for school or for food. They know what their needs are, and so giving monetary donations is the best.
At this orphanage, they often have some babies, and so you can definitely send an email to Lexi to see what the current needs are, because it's always changing, but oftentimes formula, diapers, those sort of things, they go through very quickly and they're very expensive, and so those are absolutely things that you can bring down or that you can purchase. There's a Walmart in town you can purchase while you're down in Mexico. or if you have a child that wants to do an Eagle Scout project, or your family just wants to do something extra with blankets or different things, we can let you know what the needs are if they do happen to have a clothing need, or if they need new bedding, or whatever the case may be. So it's hard to say this far out, but if you email her, we coordinate constantly with the directors on what their needs are at the moment.
And the last thing is just to review a partial packing list. You did get a quite extensive packing list sent to you by Lexi. As far as pesos go, we say maybe $100 US equivalent is what you're going to need. You're honestly just going to need pesos for snacks, drinks, a couple meals, going and coming from the orphanage, or souvenirs that you want to buy. And if you're buying something large, you can always use a credit card. So just make sure you have enough pesos to cover your needs. Work gloves are very important. Did you have something to say about?
I was just going to say, before heading down to Guaymas, because it is farther, you often can use a credit card for purchasing gas, but it can be a lot easier to pay pesos. So if you might factor that in as well, gas money for just paying in cash when you're down there instead of using a credit card, it does make the transaction a lot faster.
Okay, that's good to know. Work gloves are very important, maybe latex gloves if you're going to do painting. They love painting, and you might paint at one color one year, and then the next year you go and you paint it another color. So make sure you have good work gloves, sunscreen, hand sanitizers, or those wipes I always like to bring just to kind of keep clean. Make sure you have a hat. You might want a flashlight if you need to get up in the middle of the night. And you might want to pack some earplugs depending on who you will be sleeping with. So look at the full packing list that Lexi has sent you, but those are just some of the highlights. We hope that going over this with you has maybe answered some of your questions. And if you still have more questions, please email Lexi Skousen. She will answer them, and she'll be happy to help you out. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope you have a fabulous trip. Let me demonstrate how you can download the Google Maps to your phone. So pull up your Google Map icon that's there on your phone. Then up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see 3 bars. Go ahead and press those 3 bars. Then the first one says Your Places. Press that. And then in the right-hand corner, you'll see Maps. Go ahead and press Maps. At this point, your Google Maps pins should show up since they've been downloaded. Press that, and all of the pins for your trip will show up. Not all of these will be used for every single trip, but the appropriate ones your trip host will let you know. Thank you.